What is up, everyone? It's your girl JJBEATS here. I'm here with none other than the voice actor for Damien from Artist Choice. If you would like to introduce yourself.
Good evening. I am Lucifer Whispers. I am a voice actor in my spare time. I also do a bit of streaming every once in a while for a bit of fun and do a bit of 3D. And I've applied to a great many little projects for fun. It was quite enjoyable to take part of this one. I have to say, well, out of the many amateur projects that I took part of, it's nice to actually have something to show for it. As so, I definitely had a positive image of just this whole thing.
I appreciate that right off the bat. It's so crazy to hear your voice. I don't know why. Every time I hear it, though, it shocks me. Maybe it's just. I think it's just not what I'm used to hearing over here. Because usually I'm used to the Latin accent, even though I'm in America, but because of like where I'm from in my culture. So then whenever I hear like a different type of accent, it always throws me off. I'm like, oh wow, other people exist.
Yes, it's like a whole personality. Words.
Exactly. I know when people were playing the game, people were like, huh, that doesn't sound like a college student. I was just like, I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but it was just like the reaction right off the bat when they heard your voice was always different. It's like, huh.
Yeah, no, it's always whenever I listen to my own voice. I know this goes for every single voice actor. You always get the impression of, man, like something could have changed. I could have done something different. I like in my case, I hope that people appreciated the one like tonality that we went with. I know that I was holding back a little bit on the more playfulness, like kind of like you might be noticing right now. I tend to be very fluent with my tones, and we kind of landed on that that wasn't exactly the idea for the character. More on that later with the questions, I suppose. But heck, there's many directions we could have gone with Damien, and it was nice to kind of flesh that out.
Yeah, speaking of that, I forgot I had the character trailers. Where is Damien? Wait, why is it invisible? Wow. Wow. Well, no, those were the other ones. Well, I get that sorted out. What was your impression of the character, Damien?
So it's always difficult to like know the character, even early on, like when you just look at the first draft, so the sketch, and then you like throw in a couple like examples of like, oh, does this sound okay? Like feeling out the personality is a bit tough. I remember quite vividly we were talking about like something between James Bond and like Bruce Wayne, and that made me later think of like maybe like Damien, uh, Damien Wayne. I don't know. So to kind of convey not just the personality, but like with the backstory context added as well. I mean, this project had quite a lot of ambitions as far as backstory and storytelling was concerned, so that kind of made it more complicated to nail down the personality instead of like a shallow stereotypical representation of some sort. So part of me wonders like, would it have been befitting to make him like a bit more playful? Maybe not. Um, but actually, to make the character more like softer, more like college student or like younger or whatever, that's kind of one of the things I'm practicing a little bit now. So I just consider all of this to be useful experience by this point.
Oh yeah, trust me. Me and the programmer feel the same way. We're like, dang, we should not have done this in 3 months because, um, you know, if we
goalpost just kept moving.
it really did. Well, no, because when he said voice acting, he originally thought it was just gonna be for Arya. I was just like, it's for Arya. I was just like, wait, we're not doing all the characters. And so then I'm here like thinking, wait, how are we gonna have just Arya be voice acting and no one else? So then I got everyone the voice actor. I reached out, I was like, you sound like a Damien. And you're like, I'll be Damien. I was like, I can't believe that worked. So
it's like, oh, we got a Damien. You want to be Damien? Sure. Like, oh, cool, we have Damien. Like, and I'll be honest, like, it was only very recently I noticed that you guys had added even more characters. I mean, I heard about, oh, cool, it's gonna be like more voicing and stuff, but I was kind of saving on playing the game myself to see what more you guys have added and to like see the final product.
Yeah.
But it seems like you guys just kept taking off with not just like side characters, but important characters with voice acting and everything.
Yeah, and no, and the program was like, I don't think we did a good job. I'm like, bro, on a volunteer project, we put so many hours of work and have like so many characters slashed out. I'm like, yeah, it's not a AAA budget type of game, but I was like, we did a lot for this game. I was just like, with all the stuff we had to go through too, like, I was just like, I was just glad that I was able to get to show off everyone's like contributions. Like, I was just like, I can't not have the voice actors voice act. I cannot have the artists not show off their art. I was like, let me do everything as long as everyone's doing their part. So which is crazy because I realized like when it comes to jams, like people only do it for the purpose of a demo. I was just like, wait, people don't do it for the full game. And so like I'm here like, we're not supposed to get a visual novel done in 3 months.
I see a fair bit of like different stuff. I don't think it was this one. I tried a different visual novel as well, but there was like just one person aside from me and another voice actor who just like made the whole game, and it was janky and it was like messy mishmash and everything. But heck, you just, in order to reach the point of like, say, doing this as a career, there's a lot of steps you need to climb. And I recently looked at Avicii on his journey to becoming like the DJ of the world, and what I noticed them saying was like, yeah, we didn't spend much time on each step, but we stepped on each single step, from like small arenas, bigger arenas, like studios, bigger studios, and so on and so on, just gradually climbing. So it's kind of good to not spend too much time on this step, although definitely it's good, this whole project, that it has been done so that next step is higher up.
Yeah, I definitely want to work on other projects that either could be like a standalone game, or like add to the lore, because we couldn't add it in this game or else it wouldn't make sense. And so we're always talking about that, me and the program, and see like, is it worth doing? Because there's always well, first of all, this is like a volunteer project, so it's a free game. It's not like we profit. We actually lost money because we had to do the Android. We were trying to do the Android version, and with the Android version, you had to pay for the account. And then we had to pay for testers, because the first time they tried to ban the account because they're like, oh, this doesn't work. And we're like, BS, it doesn't work. We spent months trying to make this work. So like, yeah. So then people keep asking for a Steam version. I was just like, bro, we ain't got the bread to be making a Steam version. So I was just like, maybe in the future. But I was just like, I don't know if I want to do for this one. Maybe upgrade graphics or like make enhancements before I even think about that. But
Yeah.
I was just like, the only problem was like the voice acting itself took forever to put in, and I just think about if we did the same thing, like just the same story, same voices, change like everything else, the amount of time the voices would take if it was just like the programmer would be like a year in itself, because he was like, I could get this done in 5 weeks, and it took him 5 weeks just to do the Damien route. He's like, I got tired. So
Yeah, like one thing that we kind of did at what I did at a different project was from the start. It was like, okay, so everybody, we need to make the voices hit like a certain pitch, and then we need to stay in that tonality. And I was like, oh, maybe we should have done that with this other Aria project I'm part of. We're just like recording, making sure that the recordings are good, and then we're sending it in. We didn't consider like the volume. So,
yeah, we definitely learned from that. We're like, I'm playing through the game. I was like, dang, why is everyone a different tone? But at least the voices are there. How did you prepare for the role, or did you do any specific research for the character?
so when I want to convey personalities, usually I try to find something that is similar to it. If I'm trying to do like an accent, let's say a Italian accent, then I like to pull up, for example, Formula One and watching Italian drivers, and then they say something, I say something, and then I kind of get into the mental space so that it's like a little warm up, and then it's like putting on the mask. Now for Damien, it's very difficult when you're part of creating a character, and it does suffer a little bit if people don't have like a very specific image in mind. And I kind of felt like we were still took a while for us while we were making the character, a little bit of revisions and whatnot. First it was like, oh, do I make it more flirtatious, more like stoic, bouncy or light-hearted? Do I go more gravelly, more deeper? Or do I like soften them up a little bit? Like, we did a lot of different things, and even now I'm not even sure if there could have been ways we could have improved upon it. But it was just a whole lot of trial and error, really.
Yeah, with that, it was mostly because I kept trying to tell the writers this is how we want Damien to be, or this is how we want the character to be, and they kept straying off. So that's something I had learned myself, is that just because you say something doesn't mean it's gonna get done the specific way you want it. So it was just like, oh, this isn't what I was thinking of. Because I know one of the things I plan on talking to the voice actor for Arya is that initially Arya is going to be a sociopath, psychopath type of character. So like the same thing kind of happened with like the other characters. Either like they became completely different from what I imagined. Like as you can see from the footage behind, like Damien became more casual instead of like not casual, more refined than casual. Because in like the first version of him, he was more casual. He had like a sports jacket, but now he had like more of a sweater vest. So that was part of like my personal specific questions. Do you prefer his like sporty jacket, like casual look, or do you prefer more his refined look?
Like I feel he's creeping up towards. He's this far away from a turtleneck at this point. It's like I kind of like the way that he looks now. I particularly enjoy like the color use. Very refined, very snazzy. He probably will not change that color at all for the next 10 years. So I feel like it worked and it fit, and like my partner was saying they took one glance at the character. I was like, oh, I've seen this guy in Ultimate games. And then I looked at the script and I was like, oh no, this is not what my partner was mentioning that this character type would be. So, I mean, one of the positive things was that there's all these strange ideas of how the character is coming to be, and it becomes kind of like a mishmash of personalities and ideas, and of course, your vision meshed together with everybody else's vision. I kind of wonder if this is partially because we're all amateurs, if this is less of a problem for professionals, because professionals are both better at conveying and understanding the conveyance and staying true to the vision.
Well, I was more trying to subvert the expectation. So like, I was purposely trying. Yeah, so I was purposely trying to make him look like an F-boy, and then he's just like, "Oh no, I'm just damaged." Like, I don't know if you ever got to play through his route fully, but it's just kind of like.
Well, I know everything he's gonna say, and I say that much. Like the fact that he also wasn't just a complete Sasuke Uchiha lended itself positively. The fact that he was capable of like displaying a bit of love. I mean, I'm not gonna spoil too much for people who want to play. I think sure, then I definitely should try to romance Damon. I'm just saying. I was listening at the trailers and it was like, God damn it! The other guy's voice sounds so nice. Son of a bitch! This gonna like, because I remember early on I was kind of like, for fun's sake, just saying like, oh, my end goal will be that they all want to try and romance Damien, but now I'm not even sure if that's a losing battle, maybe.
Oh my goodness. Now, speaking of the other one, Ethan is one that people always be like, I don't know if I should pick Damien or Ethan. So, do you really do you think Ethan is in terms of story, it's just like as much like you're like, oh, like is Damien really the best, or is like Ethan really up there at top? It's like, I don't know if I'm really male lead. Maybe I'm second male lead, and he just came in last second.
I mean, in his story, I don't have like the advantage of having voice acted all of his dialogue, so I have not thoroughly followed his story, and I have stayed away a little bit from playing the game till like a late notice. I'm also like I have been diagnosed with ADHD, so I'm like, either I do it or I don't do it. So it's very difficult for me to like connect and disconnect to the project. For me, it was more like, okay, I'm gonna connect now. I'm gonna have one day where I record everything, and then I just don't touch it for like 2 or 3 weeks at the very least. It's like, that's kind of my no, I wouldn't say work ethic, but how I've been functioning the best for a while, and this project is kind of like no difference. So the trailer was good, and the my co-voice actor was killing it. I can say that much. When I'm playing it myself, I don't even know which one I'm gonna like romance, because if I romance Ethan, at the very least I'll get to see that whole avenue of storytelling that I'm a lot more unfamiliar with. Man, it's very different to like think of playing an Ultimate game when you're one of the voice actors. Like, do I romance myself? This raises a lot of questions, and I'm not sure if I want the answers to it. If I romance the other guy, well, I kind of got familiar with the other voice actor. That also raises some questions. So I tried not to think too hard on it.
What about if your partner romances you and you romance the other one?
Yeah, that's a hilarious way of doing it. Well, I do know that my partner will like exclusively do everything that has to do with my character, and just like seeking out everything, and then giving like their opinion on the story of the game as a whole and stuff like that, because they love reading books, and they are quite good on giving like constructive criticism on this kind of stuff. So it's both for the sake of my own voice acting, but also like how the writing was, and if the writing and voice acting paired well, and so on. There's so many ways that one can talk about it. The more I'm thinking about it, the more I'm thinking that I'm gonna be like doing the Ethan route. I'm curious.
Dang, Ethan's probably gonna steal the show, even though he's second lead. weird. Because
There's the bias behind the scenes. This is a rigged election.
and I was just like, yo, I wish we could expand the game and you could rank every other route, because Ethan had the longest and then Michelangelo had the shortest, and we're like, rip Michelangelo, because his story is mostly about other people.
Because there's so many things people decide to give the different roles and all that kind of stuff, you really are just rolling the dice. So I guess in terms of these kind of stuff, scoping question mark has been the kind of the big thing. It usually should be the biggest takeaway.
Yeah, yeah, basically. Did you have any input into the development of your character's voice or personality?
So, well, yeah, I did have like a bit of a say. I feel like I don't feel like he was my love child per se. But in terms of when you voice act, there's so much nuance you can do. The script says a lot, you know. It determines the decisions, the choice of words, and all of that. But there's a lot of undertones and subtleties when it comes to voices that is in the voice actor's hands, no matter what. And for me, well, I kind of want to just, well, when I play it again, I'm probably gonna be like cringing, like just because of my own voice, and just want all the other ways that it sounded in my head, but not in the microphone. I felt like I had a say in it, but because of my ADHD and because projects like this is a marathon rather than a sprint, it's very difficult for me to stay attentive, largely when I have like an exhausting day job. So what I truly am hoping for is that either I could make this my day job, which could make it my sole focus during the morning hours, or I could have a less exhausting day job that would let me more time and energy or something to do this kind of stuff. It's difficult to make things believable where the listener is immersed and doesn't experience it listening to a voice actor. That's kind of the thing. You want to make the listener think they're listening to people, not voice actors.
Yeah, when I was playing through the game for the 50th time, this time with voice acting, it was a lot more immersive with the voice acting than without, mostly because you could actually get the emotion from the character. Without the voice acting, you have to kind of imagine it, and I know some people prefer that way. So like, I'm not sure if we have a way to talk. I guess you could kind of take out the volume so you could just imagine it. But like for me, I'm the type to prefer voice acting, because it's just like, well, let's say I'm not paying attention to the dialogue, I just listen to her voice, I'm like, oh yeah, I totally know what's going on. So,
and for some people, I know myself, sometimes it's good to just stare out into space and just press an arrow to like continue and hit the next line.
Exactly.
It's like an audiobook.
Yeah, honestly, that's part of like the appeal of visual novels. So, what was your favorite aspect of voicing your character, and what was your challenges on voicing it?
So, it is decently within my comfort zone. In my everyday life, I tend to stay roughly around this tonality. The only times I ever shout and scream is when I do voice acting. And at some point I really want to do like a very colorful personality, stuff like that, but I just don't have experience with reaching that tone. So I felt like, okay, this is definitely my kind of character, the stoic kind of guy, or villains tend to be my characters, or just like a little bit more seductive. They also tend to be well within my comfort zone. This was a bit of like stoic, but leaning toward flirtatious if the player felt so inclined as to pursue him. And that was nice. And I like trying to convey emotions through subtlety. It's a huge challenge. And I'm still struggling with it. And that means saying the same sentence with the slightest differences. It drives you mad just doing a singular sentence 10 times over and just being like, oh, no, that's not right. And then you don't know what right is supposed to sound like, but you can tell, you feel that something is wrong. It's like when you look at somebody's drawing of a face and it's the uncanny valley of something is wrong. And I don't know what, but that's not a face.
You know what that reminded me of? But Arya!
When I was asked to convey the feelings of a guy that is like over his shoulder at her, he's going to go, but he doesn't want to go. It's so emotional. It's a single word, and that is the one thing we did the most takes on. And I think the one that was the best was when we didn't even record it. So then I spent another 5-6 attempts to recreate that. And I think it's well okay, but that's so you just gotta like keep on going. Sometimes you have to draw with a pen instead of a pencil. Sometimes you just have to take what you got and just move on to the next task.
But Arya, that's good. Like every time I play through, I'm just gonna be like, but Arya. Oh my goodness. Did you relate to your character in any way? If so, how?
Well, he is a nifty boy. It's so I growing up was a little bit like on the spectrum side, that I wasn't quite as gifted socially, and I would oftentimes relate to people over topics and things and logic instead of just playing around, you know, some social funny way. So my way of bonding with people, breaking the ice, would be to talk to somebody about something and displaying like, oh, you like this thing, let me talk to you about this thing. And that is, after all, kind of how Damien breaks the ice as well. He is struggling a bit to have meaningful, like emotionally vulnerable conversations at the very start, so it's not really a spoiler for me to say so. And I relate to that. People are terrifying, and you don't want to make a bad impression on them, so you really test the waters and see if things go well. And I feel like that kind of made him awkward in a very real way.
So I'm kind of chuckling is because I'm trying to include the characters in the other game I'm making, right? And with Damien, you know how originally we were supposed to have him as a James Bond character? Yes. This may or may not be canon, so this is why I'm saying it. So I want to add a scene where he's tracking down Layla's cousin, Bambi, right? And I'm just thinking like the way he would approach her, because he's doing a job for Silver, and he's just like he just sounds like the dumbest thing like you could say. It's just like, hey, so like I need to take you into custody, so if you're willing to cooperate, and she's just like, you think I'm just gonna do that? Like like I'm just thinking about like how Damien was reacting to that situation, because you know how it's like, oh, so you must be Arya, and like Arya's never really met him. It's just like, so well, he just comes up to me and he's like, oh, so you must be Bambi, but like the context is that it's like the middle of the night. It's like can I
I've the 13th hour and you just want to go home and stuff like that. If he has had a couple of those, you know, baggy under his eyes and all that stuff, I could totally forgive him and for like doing so if that was a circumstance. In those circumstances, it would be believable even. So in some of the lines, I've kind of got the impression that he is not quite, you know, is not quite out on the spectrum, like in not taking any social cues at all. He seems to have like a head on his shoulders, and as such, I'm sure there's some contexts more than others where he would just like totally not see the context of everything in the moment. I do feel like a lot of characters, when they start to actually get depth, that's when these moments show up. Like, for example, Damien just not seeing the situation and how awkward he's making it. That will be an interesting, like, endearing trait that I think would just work so well on it.
So when it comes to like you're talking about how you see certain traits in a character, so like I try to, when it comes to my writing personally, I try to make it up to interpretation, because I don't need to spell it out for the audience. If I need to spell it out, then I feel like I'm doing a horrible job in the writing, unless it's just like something really silly and I'm just trying to spell it out like I'm making a reference. But if it's like if I'm hinting like you're going through something or something like that, but I'm not saying it because it's not really up to us to really get the message. It's like it's for the audience to interpret and see if like how the character deals with it. Then yeah. Yeah, so because I know some people want it really out there, and I was just like, that's not how I write. So that was something that frustrated a few people. I was just like, that's probably not your type of game then, if I have to like put it out there, but I don't want to. So like yeah, so like it's just like it's always about context, because mine is a more mature audience. It's not like 18 plus, but it is like 16 plus because of like the references we were making and whatnot. Like it was goofy, haha, but it was still like not really intended for young ones. And so like when people were
it's not
yeah
like Hannah Montana.
yeah
Like the transition from teenage with a bit of the hard life stuff that comes with early adulthood. Huh?
I'm currently working on something called Lloyd's Playbook, and it's more mature. It's actually not Otome, but like the guy version of it. I don't know if that's, what is that called? I'm not really sure what that is. Yeah. So like it's more centered on like the male perspective, which is kind of a lot harder because I'm a female, but but I was like I'm trying to like have a different shift because you know, I'm going for a more mature audience. So like but like while we've been writing this, it's been like because we're not trying to cater for so much, it felt like a lot more entertaining. Like it has been goofy, like the story, or just like, are we really gonna do this? And he's like, do you want to? I'm like, let's do it. And we're just letting it flow. So
Interesting, because I mean there's, if you flip the roles around, well, there's more girls in the story, and secondly, you would have more veterancy in understanding them, I suppose.
yeah.
Although I suppose that, yeah, then again, it's the players, the male gaze or the female gaze or whatever, like what appeal there is. I guess it does radically change the story structure and what one should focus on.
Yeah, it really does, honestly. Like you have to figure out if what do you really want to focus on. So like if you want to focus on, well, as you said, like the male gaze, like making the yeah fan service, or like sexualization, or if you want to just focus on straight up story writing but making it more mature content and stuff like that. So we've been taking it as we go, and it's been quite the experience right now. So there's a lot of building up. Like we're actually being like very careful with this one because we're not rushing for a jam. But we've been liking how it's been coming out so far. I'm going to go to the Damien specific questions just in case we run out of time. So if we want to go back to voice acting, we could. So like, I think we already talked about what you think. Yeah, we did about if you like the final results of Damien, and I believe you said yes, correct?
Yeah, like in general, I'm pretty happy with them. I sometimes struggle greatly with like, you know, when I work a bit with them and then I leave for a while and then I need to go back and record more lines for him. Then I might, like in this case, feel a little bit like, okay, I kind of struggle to feel 100% like I know this character, this person. That's like a bit tricky, because it takes a lot to truly feel like you really know the character and can represent the character, which is kind of what you really need if you want to voice act them and be the character, basically. The difference between acting and voice acting is not that big, really. But I like the character, and I would have enjoyed playing around more with him. I don't feel like we got finished with exploring him. However, whatever that would be.
So if we were to make like sequels and stuff, you would be interested in voicing him again?
Yes, I would.
Oh,
and
cool.
I would actually be really interested in feedback, like from viewers, like hearing what was the stuff people said about them, and because that I don't know how good I did from the perspective of a consumer, like for somebody that hasn't been sitting behind the wheels and trying to crank out like the characters. Sometimes you need a viewer instead of the movie maker.
Yeah. So I have one good one. Take it as you want. One of them was like, dang, that voice is so fine, so sexy, right? And the other one was like, dang, he's old. What is he, like 40 years old? They're like, is he supposed to be in college? He sounds so old. Like,
Thanks, guys.
so that's why I was just like,
Happy to be here, ancient old manly man.
so that's why I was just like, I'll wait until he brings that up because I'm like,
So I'm like practicing a little bit with like how soft do I take the voice or stuff like that. And it's, well, I'll keep working on it still, softening up a bit because I was watching some animes and then I was there was one character where you got to see him both as like a boy and a teenager, and I think through the entire movie, even into like early adulthood, it was the same voice actor, a 40-year-old man, and I had no idea. So the skill ceiling of voice acting is crazy.
I would like to say like when I think about voice actors like Vic Mignogna, like ones that you would hear often in childhood, or I know he had a controversy, but it was like one that you would always hear growing up, or the one who previously passed away, the voice of Jessie and Misty from Pokemon. Like they would it was, I don't know if they had range, but it was just an iconic voice. Like wherever you heard it, you're like, that is that voice. So it's just like, if you want to have range or if you want to be iconic, I think that's like what I think about. It's just like, do you want to have a memorable voice? Like if like, hey, it's me, Zuko from Avatar. People are like,
so like the one voice actor that I am the most similar to is okay, where is Iron Blanket right now? The Tatum, Michael Tatum, the Sebastian Black Butler voice actor. Just going a little bit more of the British style, and then just a little playful tonality and shortened sentences, and suddenly the differences is not all that stark at all. Like his his voice shows up a lot, but he doesn't change his voice all that much. He does one thing and he does it well, and then people and he's been used for so many different roles and so many different characters. People love him because it's so attractive to listen to. That made me feel like, okay, right now at this time, I don't have as much range as I might want to, but I would be happy to just uh, do a great voice. But I think more likely, like if I do one role and it's like absolutely slap it, like it's on a great show that everybody talks about, then I might be known for that character for the rest of my life, and I don't mind that. But more likely, if that doesn't happen, at the very least, I will be in so many projects that people are going to recognize my voice because they like my voice, and that way people will struggle to see the characters as the characters, and instead, when they hear my voice, they'll hear me.
Um, I was
That's kind of also just like rubbing my ego.
I was gonna say two things. You can either become Tom Holland and learn British and American, so you can have both fan bases, or you could sign up to become the next guy in Love and Deep Space.
Oh, dude, it's funny you mentioned that. I was looking at so I got some ADHD medication, and one of the things I really want to do is just asking lots of artists who have made fun little fan comics if, hey, can I just like dub this little thing for fun's sake? Because I am cracking the code step by step on this one guy everybody sims for. This one, you know the one.
In Love and Deep Space?
Yes.
Stylist?
I think there's a different one that like has the thirstiest fan base.
That Stylist, it's the white hair one, right? There's Raphael, Stylist, Caleb, Zane.
I think I was thinking of Raphael actually.
And then Xavier. I was just like, you're thinking of Raphael? Oh yeah, they is pretty gulp gulp gulp. That's why that's why I didn't think he was thirsty, because I remember him as the fish guy. Gulp gulp gulp. I'm a fish. I don't play the game, but like I'm aware of the fan base, because I was just like, how do I make my game thirsty? I was just.
You know maybe that can be a focal point. At any rate, I do want to do a bit of like stuff like that. Just dub a couple of comics. I think it'd be a bunch of fun.
I was trying to compare Damien to Zane and Silver to Stylist, so that's why I'm aware of the characters. I was just like,
You know what? That's not a bad idea.
Exactly.
I've learned that sometimes, if you want to make a good character, use a tried and true strong template. Like, have your twist, yes, but don't try and make a character without having a good reason, a provable reason that people might like this guy.
Okay, but in all fairness, I had Damien way before Love and Deep Space was out, and I made Silver before Stylist was in the game. So like, technically, I was first, but popularity wise, they win. So I'm gonna be a copycat.
Like, what do you think? Do you think like you and maybe the crew like got better at developing these characters?
Well, for me personally, I think I have, because someone reached out to me and wanted me to help them with their game, and every time they ask me about a question, I'm like, what purpose does a character serve? What is their like relatability factor, or like what are they to serve? So like literally in the one game we have, right, we made this joke character, and he was supposed to be a nothing character, and then we made him the most unfortunate character he is. Like, he is the unluckiest person there is. My next question is, do you think Arya was able to fix Damien? Do you think Arya was able to fix Damien? Like I can fix it. But I meant like heal his wounds though, but like, you know, the quotes like I can fix him.
Well, I don't feel like necessarily the wounds were closed in the story, but I do know that sometimes it takes having the right person in your life for the next couple of years to be healing and correcting and just rejuvenating. So I wouldn't necessarily say that she has fixed it, so be a little bit optimistic. I'd actually be hopeful on the eventuality that they were to be, you know, there for each other.
That leads to my next question. Do you think they're still together or they broke up?
Chances are that he might. I mean, with his quite so volatile work, I feel like probably with a life immortal parent like Ethan Hunt style, he might have cut it off or like distanced himself from her. There would be no end to the drama between them. Like, they need like a quiet life at a farm or something like that, over by a hillside overlooking a beach. I don't think they're gonna have anything like that.
So you think they didn't end up together in the end?
I don't. That's a tough one, actually. Lots of ways it could have gone, and it's a question of is he mature enough to like? Oh, is he gonna put a career, like a long-term career, on her first? Oh, that's tough. I feel like we haven't seen enough of the story to know these things, because this is like not just falling in love. This is like, what will you do with your life and how it relates to this partner you're devoted to, you know?
So is Arya's choice a story you really want to see more of? Not just with your character, but other characters too?
So I saw that this would like, it might possibly talk more about this further on, but I realized that something that we didn't have too much of in the story was Damien interacting with other important characters and vice versa, just like all the important characters interacting together. And I realized that you truly get to know characters when they talk to other important characters. Game of Thrones rocked that in its golden age. When I remember myself being like, oh my god, character A from a different continent and character B is gonna meet. What is their conversation gonna be like? Like that I've only felt ever in Game of Thrones. And it gave me a respect for the fact that two well-written characters interacting together will make them better than the sum of their parts. So just having a storyline that is mostly affixed to like getting to know Damien is well and good in many ways, but I think there is so much more meat to be taken part of if all of these characters have interweaving storylines or just like more chemistry together and stuff like that. I think that would be awesome. Or, you know, just have drama, some actual, like, you know, hardships, the rocky relationship, like one of the characters doing something like objectively negative. See, I mean, you could shoot for stars, which probably shouldn't in terms of scope, but I no doubt that this story could go so much further.
Y'all's making me wish this was a Japanese anime instead of a visual novel. Yeah, like Arya, daijoubu. Arya-san. I'm like, Nani? So I guess you're saying you want more from, because I said, do you think Damien's story was justice, but you want more from him? We could add Boys Night Out without breaking the story. Do you think that would have given Damien some comic relief since his story is so heavy?
Short story line. Comic relief is good, and it makes the characters not so one-dimensional. It's so refreshing to see a serious character who breaks his tonality suddenly have a softer side. Suddenly you see like, oh yeah, no, he likes playing with dogs, you know? Like, oh yeah, here he is when he's like actually embarrassed in front of his childhood teacher or something like that. All of these things, it feels like, oh my goodness, I've never seen this side of him. And comedy for a lot of characters brings that. And sometimes you've seen like Arya interacting with the characters so much that it feels almost like strange in a welcome way when the characters interact with each other and Arya isn't even part of the equation. Like, I really like that. So I think it's a big shame that it couldn't be added, because I feel like just what it was trying to do is gold.
Some people actually did not like that. Like when when Arya wasn't the center of attention, they didn't like her like kind of being out of the equation because they wanted all the attention on being the main character. So like, the dynamic between the sisterhood, friendship, and like the boys bonding, they just wanted the pure romance aspect of it. So
yeah. You know what? Now that I'm thinking about it, it does take you out of the immersion. So, for the sake of the story, it's gold, but for the sake of the immersion, for the fantasy, for, you know, just the pure euphoria of romancing your dream boats, Build-A-Bear boyfriend, you know, in terms of that, it's not as serotonin loaded and rewarding.
dang. I see. Do you go for story or fantasy? That's the real question. Because now that I think about it, when you're talking about the guy who's like all damaged, and then you're like, oh my goodness, he likes puppies. I think that's why people love the villainous genre so much, or like the girl who goes back in time and ends up with the villainous duke, because he's actually a softie this whole time, but he pulls people away because he doesn't want them hurt. And it's just like, oh, that's why people like reading this so much, because he's actually a big old softy teddy bear.
So a lot of the time it's that good guys and heroes tend to be very one-dimensional and not at all interesting. And a lot of people, especially those who have been hurt a bit, those, or maybe they feel a bit like outcasts, be they goth or just nerds or stuff. Like they never felt like they were part of the mainstream. For these people, they very. I know this part of because of my VTubing and because I love to obsess about villains and a lot of fandoms. They will naturally gravitate towards the more Sasuke, Uchiha kind of guys. Either the guys who are like are hurt or broken, because people empathize with all of that. We struggle. And if you just have like a good guy that's having a good time and being soft and sweet, then it doesn't break the ice. People might feel like this is not my guy. But then they see someone that is like apprehensive, or somebody that is like a bit like unwilling to open up, or that is like guarded or putting on like a facade. And that's so real. And even if you haven't experienced that, you can tell that that's a person. That's something people do. And that gives a whole lot of depth. So when you have those and then you add like, okay, yes, but they also are different when it comes to this topic. That also still fits. And it's just, I don't know, it just works, and it works really well.
I see that. Speaking of which, the second lead, Ethan, do you think we should have had conflict between him and Damien? Like, basically the love triangle theory. Introduce a rivalry between the two male leads, because like I didn't want to add that because it's so stereotypical. But at the same time, they don't interact with each other in their routes at all. So it would have actually been funny if they were actually best friends instead, honestly. But like and they're like, oh, you know what, yeah, go ahead, get your girl. But but like because when I've written Artist Choice, I'm just like, if he was gonna be like a rival, he would have been Mr. Steal Your Girls. Like, he was gonna be like not gonna be sly about it. He would have been all up in it. So like if we did do the love triangle, like how you think that would have been?
The thing is that, especially the target demographic for this, they want to feel wanted. It feels good to feel wanted.
Oh, dang.
And because of that, there's something that just, tickles you in a funny way when you have two guys competing over you and like actually getting like a little bit riled up and upset that they might be losing you to this dickhead. I can like swear on this thing. I'm just taking a bit of artistic liberty. At any rate, like, that's one of the things that I feel are positive, because again it brings like a new dimension to it. Instead of just Arya being the driving, here's the thing: a lot of guys, they feel like they are the sole driving force behind a romance. Like, they're the ones who have to ask their partner out on a date. They have to be the one like buying flowers. Like, they're the driving force behind the romance, while their partner is passive. And in Ultimate games, sometimes the player is the driving force and the other guys are passive. And one of the ways for the characters to not be passive but to actively seek out the player is by making them compete each other. That stuff doesn't just happen in the game because the player does stuff. Stuff happens in the game because the characters want the player and they are making moves. Like, stuff like that can really make the story pop.
I see. I didn't think of it that way, but that does make a lot of sense.
Baldur's Gate 3, every single romanceable character starts with a different amount of attraction towards the player. So lots of people were surprised when one of your camp followers tried to romance you when you hadn't really tried to seek him out. Looking at you, Gale. And then everybody tried to romance Asterion, who is noticeably the one that starts with the least attraction to the player. And at any rate, these are like good qualities to consider, is what I'm saying.
So do you think Damon and Ethan should have kind of because we did in one round have Tanner and Ethan being a love triangle with Layla, and the whole dynamic between Ty, Tanner, and Layla is that they're both competing against Layla, which is why I didn't include the love triangle between the two male leads, because I'm like, what, we're gonna have two love triangles this whole game? So
if there's gonna be a love triangle, you better involve the main player. It might be like a spectator sport if the player isn't one of those three corners. But I think it's a very fun, very dramatic thing, and it doesn't have to be bad just because it's like cliche or stuff, because the joy of a video game is that you're not just seeing it on like a cheesy TV show. You're there. You're taking part of it, and for a lot of people, you don't experience that in real life. You just know that it happens.
They're like, I want Damien to fight for my affection. I want him to get into.
It's a great narrative point to make. For example, one of the characters show their devotion and their romantic side, or for the other person to show like snark and sass and stuff. It's just a great way for the characters to really apply themselves when trying to romance the player. And even though like the player is definitely trying to romance them, there's nothing against them trying to be a bit proactive.
Mm. Okay. The love triangle. Was Damien your favorite character, or was someone else in the spotlight that you were like, no, actually this is my favorite character?
I'm gonna level with you. I haven't played the target yet.
From what you have played.
Yeah, no, Dame is my favorite. He's the best boy, and you should all give him a shot.
What about, is your partner also Team Damien, or does your partner be like, actually Team Ethan?
My partner is Team Whispers. It's kind of the so what I'm saying is like you, when they're going through it, you better have done my character justice. Otherwise, I'm gonna be very interested seeing like what they say. But yeah, I enjoy Damien. And right now, at the very least, it's my favorite. I would like to be pleasantly surprised, and we'll see if that happens.
So what you're saying is that for anyone who's playing on itch.io, they should give the game a 5-star rating and a good review.
Yes, please. I've always wanted to take part of like successful story kind of thing. And I want, for everybody's sake, for this to work, and for there to be more projects, and for those projects to do even better. Like, everybody benefits if this project is good, and if everybody likes it and wants to see more of it.
I was gonna ask, do you think Damien had more chemistry with any of the girls, because you read the script and you said you haven't played through it?
When I was voice acting, I did kind of like some of the other ones. Okay, guilty pleasure. I had so much fun. Okay, so I don't think it's like a spoiler at all. For people who don't know, and chances are you don't know, there is a voice line where Damien is rejecting the player. And I loved voice acting that. That was so much fun. And in a different game, different Ultimate game, my character killed the player. I don't know why. It's my favorite part about all of this.
So, people kept telling me like they hate the idea of getting rejected. What are your thoughts on that? Because a lot of people were against me adding the reject feature, or getting rejected, because they're like, how am I gonna go through all the game just to reject or get rejected? But I was just like, but that's sometimes reality. So like, and you said you love voicing it, so like, what is your take on that?
Well, whether or not I like voicing it, I can concur that from a gameplay perspective, in terms of the time they've invested, maybe some players are not all that good at romancing people either. I know that when I played Dragon Age Origins, I would talk to all the camp followers. And Dragon Age Origins is very much, it's an older game, but it's very much like Baldur's Gate 3 now. I would talk to all the camp followers, and I would save load in order to get all the correct best options. I know what it feels like to try and solve it like a puzzle, and at the same time, it's also brutal if you go through a game and then it ends up with a bad ending, and then you feel like your time is wasted. I feel like this can be circumvented through just clever game design, however. The life does have rejections, that's absolutely true. But it's more a question, I think, of how do you want the player to experience their ending, their story, versus exploring the other endings, like the different possibilities and possible results. I think that it's good to have the option of getting rejected, as long as there is a good way for the player to still get a satisfying finality to the time they put into the game.
Yeah, like in this one, it's not like, oh, like you suddenly just have no way of getting the right route. It's like you literally get to choose like which ending you want. So like, it's not like, oh, I picked all the wrong choices, like what the turd. But like, it's just like, I can understand the frustration. It's like, I got the wrong what the turd. But like if you had the option,
It doesn't take that long either. Them doing a little bit of replay, you know, that's
yeah.
just totally fine. Just jumping back some scenes and then trying a different stuff. I think all of that is fine, and I think it's good if the players work for it.
Mm. What I was gonna say was that with the do you think Damon would be a good match with either Serenity or Layla?
I am terrible with names. I remember the lines that I was recording with the different ones.
So Serenity's the sports girl with the influencer background. They went to high school together, and Layla is the superpowered chick. Do you think either would suit Damon?
Well, that's the thing. Like when I was recording, like lines and whatever, and when I was like looking over a lot of the dialogues, you know, I was reading the lines with the names that I've since forgotten. So I cannot really give a satisfying answer to that until I've dove a little more into it. If I remember correctly, I do think that the second gal that you actually no, the first gal that you just mentioned was actually like compatible, if I remember correctly. But I'm sure somebody else has a more clever answer to this.
Okay. They're color coded. So Serenity's the green one, Layla's the purple one. Are you referring to the purple or the green one? Did you forget the colors too? Okay, that's fine. Okay, there was a crazy idea that happened during development with Davian's Fast, that we decided not to do, for certain reasons. How do you think you would have felt, or do you think it would have a negative impact if we saw Damien kill someone on screen?
I think it would have had a positive impact.
You think so?
Yeah, it would also be a hell of a fun to voice act. I also think that it really works with what you wanted to convey, like making him, you know, work as a character with depth and with like a serious tone to things. Now this goes a little bit into like spoiler territory, but like he has a bit of like a heavy past and whatnot. And sometimes, as they say, you have to shoot a hostage. Sometimes you have to like make a small sacrifice. For example, tarnishing Damien's good image with the fact that he has killed someone. I think that that's just a good thing to include, and for some people they're into that. So you know, you win-win.
Okay. Yeah, someone was against the idea of him killing someone. They're like, that would kill the Otome experience. So especially because it was a college campus, so it's just like we decided not to because it was just our first game. But I was just like,
angst is such a big thing, and I feel like killing people just slots in perfectly there. But I haven't really played a lot of Otome games, so I feel like especially just teenagers and young adults really appreciate that kind of stuff. And I mean, nobody does angst like people between the age of 14 and 18.
There's this one route where Layla kind of flirts with Damien. Do you think he likes the attention as people usually think he's the playboy?
I think he likes the attention, not for playboy reasons. Mostly just because, okay, I can say this from like the character itself. I know this for a fact. He kind of wonders what could have been. He doesn't understand love. He doesn't understand relationships. And here, somebody is flirting with him, and he is flirting with the idea of like being more of a normal guy. So absolutely, this has like a very important effect on him.
Dang, that just kind of makes me think like maybe Damien and Layla are meant to be instead, like low key, because like he's in a dangerous field. Layla's super strong; she could handle it. Compared to our, oh my goodness, do I have to change the story?
Yeah. He's a danger boy, and she can like carry him like a big old Amazon.
But like,
she can protect him. He has a vulnerable heart. His heart is like in tatters, but she can hold it. She got strong hands.
But the twins. What about the twins?
I think their chemistry could be very good. Like these two characters going together, I think it would be a big barrel of fun.
That's why I like really wanted to have their route more expanded on, but we couldn't get it expanded. So like that's why I'm like when you said that, I was just like, cause it was kind of like a spur of the moment thing. I was just like, but like low key when I wrote that, I was just like, you know what? Because I low key thought Layla and Silver kind of made sense, because Silver was like Layla kind of makes sense with everyone. Not gonna lie, like for some reason she just kind of gets it on with any of the guys. So like she just kind of, I don't know, maybe she's a succubus or something, because she just could get it. But
well, maybe I do like the idea of characters like getting together if they are not the targets of the player. Sometimes people really like storylines that go adjacent to the main story, and sometimes people cannot stand it, so it's really hit or miss. It's so difficult to apply love stories that doesn't center on the player, especially because some players are very self-centered, and they will not they will not appreciate other people's love stories. So it could be good. I think it will be very hit or miss.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you with the friendship route, that a lot of people actually didn't like the fact that the female route was developed main, because they just wanted the romance to happen. So I'm not.
Think about it. Other games have like a lot of love interests that all focus on the main character.
Yeah.
For a very good reason, because then it's all about the player. And these characters are not like real people, so it doesn't have a lot of like consequences if you're kind of flirting at the idea between two characters. And polygamy is a big thing in these games. Like even with like players who would not really consider it in real life, but it just kind of works in here because you can just like fly around the fantasy of getting to sample all the cookies at the same time, and it doesn't have negative consequences, and there's something nice about that. So I think that maybe the best outcome would probably be to not lean too heavily on like shipping romances that are not like tied to the main character. Maybe like comics that could have been like a little bit of like what if.
A what if scenario.
Yeah, what if these two characters got together? Stuff like that. That's a lot of fun. I do agree, it kind of like takes away from Aria.
But you don't think it's better to try to create your own thing rather than to stick to the genre?
I very much appreciate when people experiment.
Mm.
If you do it well, then you don't need to lean on the quote-unquote correct best choice. You don't need to lean on the meta, because your end result will be so good anyways. And even if you're not trying to make the best thing, you're just trying to make your thing, you should still try it if you really feel like you should. There's nothing bad in that, and in fact, you might stumble upon greatness. And especially at this stage right now, this wasn't about to hit Broadway by any means. We're all just trying to make the best we can, and then we learn from our mistakes, and then we do better next time and next time and next time. So in that sense, I don't mind at all whether people are trying to be experimental, because I am honestly really interested in seeing the consequences and what you learn from it.
Yeah, no, low key though, just thinking about the what if scenario of Damien and Layla is kind of hidden though. That's kind of hidden. Make Arya's choice what if. My final question for the Damien specific questions was, if Damien had a kid, a boy specifically, what do you think he would name it? I thought that was gonna be a pretty simple question. I guess you didn't really read the script.
The answers for every single one of them. I was so I'm kind of thinking of just going with the funny Batman direction. The different Robins and what names they had. You had Damien, you had Dick, you had oh god, and actually I'm sorry to forget. Maybe just Bruce. So probably something rather quite ordinary. I think Jack.
I mean, it would be ordinary, but it would be named after a color, of his best friend from his backstory. I thought that was a pretty.
Yeah, no, it's been a while since I got into this one. You mentioned it, yeah, of course. The guy that perished, very emotional. I had forgotten a little bit about Altered. Yep, no, that would make sense.
But
yep, naming him as best old buddy, old pal.
But if Damien did have kids, do you think he would more be so a daddy's boy, or daddy's he would be more affectionate to a boy or a girl?
It's entirely possible that Damien would struggle on I think once he becomes a father, that would be a whole other beast, and he would not be a natural fit, and he would have to work it as he goes, and there would be bumps and problems. I think the kid would end out well, but I kind of feel like it would be a little bit like Lloyd Forger, except that Damien would be trying with a bit more earnest. That it's not a mission. Damien would go out there with the intention of being a good dad, but I don't think that he necessarily knows what it takes to construct a good childhood.
So, I'm just kind of thinking we just have Damien as a. It's just Damien Spy X Family edition. Adopt Damien, the Blackwood family. Imagine Layla and Damien. It's a spy Amazon woman kid.
Oh my god, yeah, Layla just dressed up in yours dress, just kicking ass. We're just segueing into creating a Spy X Family.
Exactly. It was still sell to. They were like, "This is a knockoff, but I'll still read it." The villain.
They're just gonna be like firing their own mesmer.
And then the villainess would be Arya's child.
Yeah, I love it when a player character becomes the villain.
Exactly.
Or Arya would just be like a wine ant. That would be awesome.
Yeah, it's just like they're like, how did this happen? It's like, this is not my character. They get so mad, kind of like when people play Final Fantasy and then they play Final Fantasy X-2. They're like, what the turn happened? They're like, this is not Final Fantasy X, Final Fantasy X-2, Final Fantasy X-3. They're like, what is this audiobook? They're like, this is not my Final Fantasy X.
Along the journey and your own like headcanons and fantasies are not playing out.
Nope.